Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video I want to talk to you about why you should never follow any TCAS resolution advisory when you are flying online in Flight Simulator. If you are a real-life pilot, ignore anything that I'm about to say within this video. This is not applicable to you. This is only about Microsoft Flight Simulator and other flight simulators. So, we have a target on our TCAS right here ahead of us, 15 miles out, showing 1,000 feet above. There should be no conflict with this aircraft at all. Now, we are flying online on VATSIM right now, and this guy is a VATSIM traffic. So I'm going to pull up VATMap or VATSpy, which is a tool that can show me the data of other aircraft right inside my simulator. So let's go ahead and do that. We are located right here. We are the Ocean 5 X-ray. And this is the other aircraft that is showing up on our TCAS. So, as you can see, looking at our data, we are flying from coast to Frankfurt and we are currently indicating at an altitude of 36,210 feet. Now, if we have a look into the other aircraft, we can see that he's flying from Dubrovnik to Frankfurt, indicating an altitude of 38,193 feet. So he is 2,000 feet above our current altitude. But if we look at our TCAS, we will actually see him 1,000 feet above our altitude. And this is the first part of a problem that I want to talk about today. The first part is incorrect indication of other aircraft's altitudes on your own TCAS. Just yesterday I've been flying a flight here on VATSIM and I had an aircraft coming right on the opposite course that would exactly collide with me, and he showed at my altitude. Now, directly behind him was another aircraft that also showed to be at my altitude. Now, I asked the air traffic controller which altitude readings he got from the oncoming aircraft that were shown on my TCAS to be an immediate collision threat, and he said that those aircraft were 1,000 feet above me. Now, luckily it was still daylight, so I looked outside the window and I could visually verify that those aircraft were indeed 1,000 foot above me. But just like the target that we are seeing on our navigation display right now, that is actually 2,000 feet above us, but is showing as 1,000 above us on the navigation display, we would obviously have gotten a TCAS resolution advisory of that. And that is where the entire problem starts. With the altitude indication of other aircraft on your TCAS being basically incorrect all the time, you cannot trust any TCAS RA that you would get. In yesterday's case, I got a climb RA, and if I had actually started a climb, I would have climbed right into the other aircraft. Now, why is that? Well, to be honest, I can't tell. I can say that there are some problems with how your pilot clients are going to insert other aircraft into your simulator. So here's an example. Right now we are cruising at an altitude of 36,015 feet maybe. So obviously our pilot client has to send the data to the network, to VATSIM, but it is going to round it. So those roundings are often affected by errors. What might happen is that your pilot client might send our current altitude of 36,020 feet as flight level 361 to the network. Now, other simulators or other pilots in the simulators are now going to see you at flight level 361. On top of that, there is still some problems caused by different ways of how simulators are handling temperature and compressibility errors. So, if you remember our look into the VATSpy tool earlier on, which I can just about bring up for you once again. So, looking at us over here, we are showing 36,227 feet on VATSIM. If we look at the aircraft next to us, he's showing 36,199. Now, if we once again look at our TCAS, that other guy on the left is exactly at our altitude. But let's look at this. And you will see that he's actually shown 1,000 foot below. So this is an immediate collision threat. With this guy we would collide, but your TCAS is showing you 1000 below and therefore no problem. Now let me go ahead and demonstrate to you what is going to happen. Since we just figured out that this guy is an immediate threat to our flying, I'm going to descend 1000 feet to avoid him. On the actual network, this is going to avoid a collision. However, on our TCAS, we are going to force a resolution advisory, since we are now descending to the level that he has indicated. Once again, I'm not putting anybody into perceived danger on the network over here, because he is actually shown at 36,000 feet, just like we are. However, on the TCAS, we are now basically running into a situation that is going to cause a resolution advisory. And that is exactly what we do not want to happen. When I encountered my problem yesterday, where I had the two oncoming aircraft, I asked the air traffic controller at what altitude they were, and since I figured that, hey, there seems to be a big problem somewhere, I opened a topic in the VATSIM Germany forums, and I got replies from several controllers, including one real-life air traffic controller, saying that they keep running into these problems all over. So, looking at our TCAS right now, this guy is definitely going to cause a resolution advisory. However, as we could remember from VATSBio, we are now 1000 feet below his actual position. So the resolution advisory that we're about to get is going to be incorrect. And if it turns out to be a climb RA, then we might actually climb right into his actual position, thereby causing the collision. And this is a big problem. VATSIM controllers have told me all over that they separate aircraft by 1000 foot, and this 1000 foot separation in the end turns into a resolution advisory, and then the aircraft climb right into one another. That makes vertical separation pretty much impossible on VATSIM if people follow their TCAS arrays. Now, the Phoenix is especially a problem here. So, if we look into the airline options, under airline modifiable information we have an auto TCAS option. Regardless if the airline you are flying has this option installed or not, and unfortunately it is activated by default in the Phoenix, you should turn this off. Because what the auto TCAS option does is when you get a resolution advisory, that thing is going to follow the advisory automatically. And once again, the advisory itself is not reliable. So that's one part of the problem. But let's talk about the other part of the problem, and that is how flight sim developers are implementing TCAS. In real life, TCAS works by the two transponders of the aircraft communicating with one another. And if the aircraft can talk to one another, they can also decide who is going to climb and who is going to descend. So in real life, when you get a TCAS climb array, the other guy is always going to get a descent array. In Flight Simulator, that is not the case. Now, if we forget for a moment about the incorrect indicated altitudes, there is still the rounding error. So right now we are indicating 35,000 and 30 feet. Now, if that is translated into flight level 351 by the pilot client and therefore sent to any other VATSIM pilot as flight level 351, that would obviously mean that if a potential resolution advisory with the correct TCAS would happen, then I would now get the climb and he would now get the descent, because I'm showing a little bit higher. But what if the other guy is also indicating incorrect and then send incorrect to my system? So if we assume for a second that the other guy is also at flight level 350 and that the other guy is sent to my system as flight level 351, then I would get the descent. But at the same time, if the other guy sees me at 351, he will also get the descent. In other words, both pilots are going to receive a descent RA. And what that is going to mean, you can imagine. So let's now think about a last issue. If we for a moment forget about all those incorrect indications of the targets over here, if we once again forget about incorrect flight levels being sent to the online networks, there is still one big problem. And that is flight sim developers who simply do not care about correct TCAS implementation. To date, I have seen maybe 2 TCAS systems, I'm not going to mention in which add-ons, which actually work more or less correct. The remainder of the add-ons has an incorrect TCAS system. Now, if you know how a TCAS is supposed to work, if you know which resolution advisories you're supposed to get, then you will be very, very surprised by some of the results that you are going to encounter. An example of that may include that when you are in level flight, a flight simulator TCAS might give you a maintain vertical speed resolution advisory, which is nonsense. That is an advisory meant for a totally different situation. Similarly, you might get climb or descent RAs, but you might also get climb now or descent now RAs, which actually is a reversionary resolution advisory. Let's say initially you got a descent resolution advisory, but then TCAS decides that it needs to change its course of action and make you climb, then it would say climb now. In Flight Simulator, that stuff is not working at all. So that's some stuff to keep in mind there. There are huge lacks in the simulation of TCAS on Flight Simulator. And for that very reason, all that's going to happen if you follow a resolution advisory while flying online is that you are going to cause more damage than you fix stuff by following that RA. You are not going to positively avert a collision with that other aircraft, but instead you might be causing a collision by following the resolution advisory. In any case, it is very, very, very annoying for VATSIM controllers if they constantly get aircraft that are well separated on the network, which then start a TCAS avoidance maneuver simply because of an incorrectly simulated TCAS. For that very reason, turn off your auto TCAS in the Phoenix and disregard any resolution advisories you might be getting regardless of which aircraft you are flying. So just to be sure that you guys don't perceive this as I'm bashing the Phoenix right now, which I am absolutely not, but just to be sure you guys don't perceive it that way. In the PMDG 737 you see the same problem. When you look at your traffic display on the navigation display in the PMDG 737, you will often see targets that are indicating as, for example, 300 feet or 700 feet above or below you. And all of that is incorrect indication. I'm not sure what is causing that. All I can do is analyze that something is causing it, and therefore we have to deal with the problem. Alright, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this one interesting. If you did, then do let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next video. And as always, like, comment and subscribe, as it does really help out the channel. And if you want to really support what I'm doing, then I would love to see you as a channel member, which is going to give you exclusive early access to new videos before they are released for anyone else. And if you really just like what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link that you can find in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again, hopefully very soon.